So welcome back to the channel. And the other day I was on the Facebook Marketplace looking for parts as always, and it's been a little dry. The deals are not all that great, but you do the best you can. The biggest thing I'm looking for right now is graphics cards. I have been able to scoop up a bunch of motherboard and CPUs pretty cheap, which has been awesome, but graphics cards has kind of been hit or miss lately. And then the other issue too is with the price of a DDR5 memory going up, even DDR4 has gone up a little bit. It's been a little expensive lately. So I was looking for graphics cards, and in the channel, I deal mostly with low end to medium builds. High end stuff, when I build them, they don't sell and they're not as lucrative as I would like. Medium to low end builds, I make more profits for it. As far as my medium builds, I'm looking more for the RTX 2070. That seems to be a really good sweet spot for about $100 to $120. But as far as the low end ones, it kind of goes on what I can get dirt cheap enough and really what graphics card is worth it. So while browsing, I found a GTX 780. It was listed for $60. I offered the guy $20. Now $60 is a little steep. If you look on eBay, they kind of go for about $40, a little higher if you get the TI version of it. But with eBay, always remember this, after shipping fees and eBay fees, it probably goes down to probably what you're gonna expect to pay on the Facebook Marketplace. So always kind of keep that in mind if you're shopping. So I offered the guy $20 and he did make an interesting comment. I've had this thing up here for 3 weeks, take it, I just wanna get rid of it. I mean, $20 is $20, it's better than nothing. But this is also an old graphics card. So this graphics card was released back in May of 2013. And what's interesting about it is when it was released, it went for $649, but then back in October, the price dropped to $499 due to competition by AMD. I forget the card that went on par with it. I'll do some research and I'll post it on the screen. But I still think it's pretty cool that considering that they had competition, they lowered the graphics cards for that. So that's pretty cool. But the issue with this graphics card is besides the fact that it's 12 years old, the last driver update for it was July, I believe, of 2024. The version for it is like 487.8675309. Whole bunch of numbers I can't remember. And it only has 3 gigs of VRAM. Now, as of 2025, I mean, for most modern gaming, 8 gigs is the sweet spot. That's where you really wanna gear your builds towards. So 3 gigs may not cut it. I actually sell low-end builds with 4 gigs of VRAM, and it's tight. It's tight. So in this video, we're gonna go ahead, open it up, take a look at it, put some fresh thermal paste, pop it on the bench, try some of the newer-ish games, and see how well this card holds up 12 years later. Is it a good, cheap, entry-level budget option for somebody just trying to get their feet wet with gaming? We'll see. All right, so let's go ahead and do our visual inspection. And on a side note, I actually had purchased one of these from a viewer a couple of years ago, and I wound up actually giving it away to a friend of mine who just needed a cheap graphics card to get his computer running. So I never really got to tinker with this. But I mean, for $20 on the Facebook Marketplace, cheapest graphics card I could find, it might be decent. So first things first, smell test. Smells good, no complaints. Dust, not bad, but the back tells us a different story. First things first, we got some sticky spill action over here. A little sticky, yeah, you can see it right over here, so, and there. So something did get on this card. Maybe at one point they did have SLI, because these pins like look really worn out. Okay. This part looks good. So yeah, let's take it apart. Hopefully this is a time where taking apart graphics cards was a lot simpler. And yes, this is usually a good idea just to pop it in and see if it works, but considering that when you buy in the Facebook Marketplace, you kind of agree and it is what it is. And honestly, for $20, I mean, I'm not going to go after the guy for that. But it's one of those situations where it last ran when it was parked. He said he last had this in the system about 4 years ago and it's been sitting, but it worked really good 4 years ago. Famous last words for sure. Oh, that came apart real easy. Thermal paste, nice and dry. Now I'm fairly confident this thing hasn't been opened up before. But then again, I can't remember if this card had that tamper screw, that little sticker that says you can't touch a graphics card or do anything to it. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But either way, maybe it has been opened before, because you see those marks on there? It looks like somebody like opened this up and pried it with a screwdriver. I'm willing to bet that's not factory, so I'm gonna say that this thing was opened up. But man, that's a nice gouge. I mean, the only time I've ever seen some metal exposed like that is with liquid metal, and this is definitely not liquid metal. That's a gouge, folks. Let's go ahead and get some of this extra stuff off. I mean, realistically, the practicality of this graphics card in modern day use, you're gonna have to have low standards. But there are a lot of potato games that you can actually use with a graphics card like this and enjoy. So we'll definitely test that. Yep, that's pretty good. Good enough for who it's for, which is me. And I always suggest whatever graphics card you buy, if it's used, and depending on how used it is, put some fresh thermal paste on it. Because if you're not getting the best thermal efficiency, you're going to lose the FPSs. All right, that looks pretty. I really don't want to take this thing apart too much, but we got that nasty goodness. Maybe we could just make it a little better. Because it doesn't look like it spread anywhere else. It just might have been like a little blip there. I think for now we're just gonna say it's better than what it was, and that's gonna be our standard. I mean, if it doesn't fire up after doing all this, then what I'll go ahead and do is take it apart, give it a better cleaning, or maybe it just works perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead, slap some thermal paste on this, put this thing back together, and see if it fires up. All right, put back together, better than what it was. Well, maybe worse, because I think I got a little extra thermal paste everywhere. The old stuff, but it'll be okay. Pins look good. What do we need? 6 and an 8. That works. And for our test bench, we are going to be using i5 12600K, 32 gigs of DDR4, 1 terabyte NVMe. Definitely some bottlenecking that's going to be going on. And also the fact that this graphics card is old and doesn't have a ton of power, but you know, we might give her an A for effort. I am going to have to go old school because, well, I lost the little USB for my Logitech mouse keyboard combo thing. So, cheap $1 thrift store Dell keyboard to the rescue. And this cheap $1 thrift store Logitech wireless mouse to the rescue, which I hope I don't lose this either. Let's get some HDMI, pop in some interweb, and let's see what happens. All right, do we get a video? Oh, sweet. I honestly wasn't expecting that to work. So I guess it did ran one part. That's cool. So let's go ahead, let's install drivers, updates, all that type of stuff, and let's try some games. So here's one that's interesting. So I downloaded the latest and greatest drivers from NVIDIA's website, which is 475.14, but the current version, which was the Windows drivers that just installed, is 581.57. So what does that mean? I don't know. The higher the number, the better. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cancel this for now. We'll see if we get an error message or anything like that, but we're just gonna run it as is, because, you know, 581 is better than 475, right? Let me know in the comments. So running Furmark, it's been almost 4 minutes, temperature about 60 degrees Celsius. And I use this one because this thing is a really good stress test and it's gonna tell you right away if the GPU is gonna fall on its face. I used to use Heaven Benchmark for years, number one, because it was actually pleasing. The music was nice, but it bit me in the butt because I sent out a graphics card. The graphics card kept on crashing under load. And what it was that the GPU hotspots were ridiculously bad, which typically means you have a bad contact with your thermal paste. But anyways, I was able to resolve that, reapply some fresh thermal paste, and the graphics card ran perfectly. So this is why I use this program. Now with these older graphics cards, you don't get to see that, which is unfortunate, but considering it's been 4.5 minutes, this thing is running fine, it's stable, hasn't crashed, we should be able to game. So let's go game. All right, so for our first game, we're gonna play probably one of the best games I've played in a long time, Expedition 33. If you haven't tried this game, I highly recommend it. It is a fantastic game. I'm 10 hours into the game and I've enjoyed every minute of it. So highly recommend it. So we're gonna go with low preset, low, max FPS 120, VSync. And one thing I have found with this game is that if you don't use VSync, it gets a little weird and like obscure. Like you get that whole blurring and kind of, I forget what you call it. Like screen tearing, there we go. That's the word I was thinking for. So if you have the game, you run into that issue on your computer, that is a solution that worked for me. So, all right, everything looks decent enough. Let's continue. Not too bad. All right, let's see if we can get into a fight scene. I am playing with this with a mouse and keyboard, which is not ideal or recommended. The controller is the way to go. Well, we have a crash. So when I loaded the game, it said that I needed the newest NVIDIA drivers, but NVIDIA told me that it had 581. So what I'm gonna actually go ahead and do now is install NVIDIA's driver and see if that fixes it. So we'll be back. So Expedition 33 doesn't work on this. It keeps crashing and it crashes randomly and I can't pinpoint what it's at. I don't wanna say that it's a graphics card issue. I think there's an issue going on with this motherboard. This is a Gigabyte H610M and it's one of those that was, you know, trade-in. Was it a trade-in? I think it was a trade-in. Can't remember how I got it. But I'm having a couple of issues with this motherboard. I don't have a board to swap it out just yet. So I'm not gonna say that Expedition 33 doesn't run with this 780. I'm just gonna say that I can't confirm that I don't have another issue. But for the most part, the parts that it did play, we were like 80 frames per second, 1080p low settings. So I think there's a chance, and I might revisit that later when I'm able to get this. Now Cyberpunk, as you saw in the background, does run on this. I did have to lower the resolution to 1680 by 1050, low settings, and we were averaging 34 frames per second, which is not bad for a 12-year-old graphics card playing an intense game like this. So there might be hope for this little guy. Let's go ahead, let's try one more game, and then we'll wrap this up. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider, 1080p, low settings, we're averaging probably about 50 frames per second. It did dip in the previous scene, but I mean, considering the graphics card does hold up, even though we don't have the latest and greatest drivers, but it seems to be getting the job done. So let's wrap this up and let's see what our averages are. So averages 58 frames per second and our lows, where you're at, 39. So not the best, not the worst. We could drop it to the lowest settings and get more frames per second, but I mean, playable for a 12-year-old graphics card. So let's go ahead, let's wrap this up and give you my final thoughts. So is the GTX 780 done for in 2025? Some may say yes, some may say no, most may say e-waste. Hear me out, folks. It always comes down to what are you trying to do, what games are you trying to play. Now, granted, we don't have the latest and greatest drivers for it, but hear me out. If you're trying to do 1440p and 4K and competition gaming and all that high-end stuff, obviously this is not the graphics card for you. But if you're one of those that are just trying to, I want to get into the computer world, I want to see what it's like, get my feet wet, get comfortable with using the whole PC thing, a graphics card like this paired with a cheap system works good, gets people started, and then later on, they learn to upgrade, or they spend the money to upgrade and end up getting a better system. And that's where these systems come in. I get a lot of people that always ask me, hey, I need one of your cheap computers because my kid is curious about computer gaming, but I don't want to break the bank. And sometimes a graphics card like this works really well to get them started, and then they upgrade later on, and well, the PC cycle continues. Now in this case, in all our benchmarks, we were able to game and have a decent gaming experience. And now that I look back at it, Expedition 33, and I actually remember this because I had this happen to me about a year or two ago. I think our issue with it is actually the bottleneck. And I've seen this happen where the bottlenecks are so great. You have a nice CPU with a really not so good graphics card. You get a lot of instability issues, low 1%, and the game is just really unstable. And I think that's what's going on with this. And I'm fairly confident, and I might revisit this later, if I was to take this graphics card and pair it with something like an i7 4th gen, I think that issue would resolve itself. So it might not even be my test bench, but then again, this Gigabyte H610 motherboard, it's cheap. And it could be my memory on it. So I might have to revamp my test bench setup just to make sure it's a little more stable, but that's another story in itself. But I mean, for the most part, these are things to consider. If you're gonna build a computer, make sure your CPU complements your GPU. You don't have great bottlenecks. There's a website that I use, it's a bottleneck calculator, and I kind of use that to make sure that the GPU and CPU are complementing each other enough. You are gonna run into some bottleneck, you will. That is just the name of the game sometimes if you're trying to get the best bang for the buck, but you just wanna make sure that your bottleneck is not so great where it could actually cause stability issues in your gaming. So it's something to keep in mind. But as far as me moving forward, a graphics card like this, will I go out and hunt for GTX 780s? No, not really. I mean, if they're given to me, I'll probably just keep them somewhere just to have them, just for those, you know, cheap, real cheap potato PCs that people do tend to ask for. But I mean, personally, my recommendation, if you're looking to get a graphics card, 10 series or newer, 1070s, 1080s, even though those, the graphic drivers on those are not the latest and greatest either anymore, but I kind of stick to the 1070 up. That's actually been working really well. And for medium builds, 2070, like I talked about, that has actually been a really popular system I've been putting together, is computers with a 2070. So with all that being said, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, concerns, criticisms. Graphics cards like this, do you think they still have a purpose, or are they e-waste? I would like to know your thoughts on that. What is a cheap graphics card out that's better than this that you think has good bang for the buck? And do you think the issue with Expedition 33 is the graphics card or a bottleneck issue? If you like this video, definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're not, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.